All right, guys. This is script section of Dark Knight. Yeah, basically, this was actually a very interesting area.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I was aware. In my thoughts on Batman Begins were very simple. Like, while I liked the movie and I liked a lot of stuff about the film, there were some areas that were obviously had some problems with, like the fighting and everything. But then one of the big sections, like Halfop is saying, is some of the story elements and script elements that were involved. We already talked about the overall story issues and everything, which I thought were very interesting choices. But the script, when I knew that, found out that Jonathan Nolan was signed on, I was very pleased,
man,
because Jonathan Nolan was the guy, obviously, who gave the story to Christopher Nolan for Memento, and he's a guy who worked on the script with Christopher Nolan for Prestige. So I was very happy about that, because I think that they're a very good team, obviously, because of them being brothers and everything. They work very well together, and I think that was a very good choice. And it's actually bear dividends when I watched The Dark Knight, because you can see that the quality of the screenwriting jumped hugely from Batman Begins to this. Like, that was actually one of the strongest parts of The Dark Knight for me, was the actual script. That it was uneven, and it was uneven for the lines, because characters like the Joker had the best lines. And Batman's lines pretty much went up to the same standard as the Joker's lines. And in fact, some of the characters, those were the only areas that I thought, you know what, maybe they focus too much on the Joker, or they focus too much on... But the way that I view things is like this. When you're making a movie of this scale with a studio, there's only so much flexibility that a writer and a director can actually have to do what they really want to do. You need the explosions, you need the action scenes, you need this, you need that.
But that's not an issue with the Batman thing, though.
What?
But then what does that have to do with the Batman thing? What's his restrictions are those on the Batman thing?
On the Batman what?
You said like...
oh no, the restrictions, this with the script is like, so therefore they are required to have some particular scenes in there. Like a big action scene, a big kidnapping scene, a big car chase, and this and so on and so forth. So therefore that requires time, and it means that you're spending time doing that when you could be focusing on character development here, focusing on dialogue scenes here, and focusing on... And the thing is that what was so funny is that in the script, and when you watch this film, the best scenes in The Dark Knight are the small scenes, not the action scenes, not the Bat Pod, which was great and everything.
The Bat Pod was pretty great.
But the best scenes are the actual small scenes, the dialogue scenes, the lines that are said, the interactions between some of the characters. Those are actually the best parts of the film. And that for me shows why we're talking about a good screenwriter and a good director. And the fact that, you know what, with movies of this scale, you're always going to be battling with those two areas. What's good about The Dark Knight is that they found a very good equilibrium. It's a good balance between pulling in the masses, who pretty much couldn't care less about Batman anyway, but the hype has whipped everybody up and they've all gotten involved. Then pulling in the so-so Batman fans who, like, if it's a good movie and everybody says it's a good Batman movie, they'll be back. If not, they'll boycott it or not bother watching it. And the hardcore guys who watch everything. Like, I've watched everything that has to do with Batman, basically. It's like Batman and Robin, I paid for a ticket, I actually went to watch it. Batman Forever, I paid for a ticket, went to watch it. Batman Returns, Batman One, everything. Regardless of how bad, good, or whatever it was, I still went and saw the thing. So it's one of those situations. And so when you're writing the script, I believe that it's a compromise. Like Jonathan Nolan has already come out and said he's a fan of Batman, and it showed. It showed because he understood the way in which you had to characterize some aspects of the story. How you had to go with, like, what does Joker represent to Batman? Joker is basically the same thing. The only difference between Joker and Batman is that Joker went mad and Batman went mad in a different way. So they went like this. So the only reason why Batman is against criminals is because it was a criminal that actually killed his parents. If the cops killed Batman's parents, he'd be the Joker. Which is why, what's the funny thing, which the psychology I've always gotten from Batman through reading Arkham Asylum and Killing Joke and everything, is that it is just by fortune that Batman ended up as a good guy. The fortune that the people that traumatized him happened to be bad guys. Not that he is inherently good. That is what I found interesting about what Jonathan Nolan put on the table, is that he was showing him that, look, Joker was saying in the interrogation room that, look, to all intents and purposes, you're exactly the same as me. They just happen to need you. And, you know, people who watch this movie, which is why I said you need to be a fan, that's nothing new. It's been around before even 89 Batman came out. But no director or screenwriter has felt the need or desire to actually show that. That's the key. A lot of the things that are good about The Dark Knight have existed for decades, but nobody actually cared enough about Batman to actually put them in. There's a lot of stuff that isn't even in The Dark Knight that was hinted at that people who are not Batman fans don't even realize how deep it goes. Like the kinds of things that the Joker actually did in The Killing Joke to Gordon was only hinted at with the whole kidnapping and everything.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Just for me to comment, like, I think, as I said, my view with the writing was like, the characterizations of Joker and Gordon were very, very good. Like, the way that the Joker was represented was that this.
We're
was
going to
really,
talk about the individual.
Let's
talk about the scripts.
Yes, as in but it is part of them scripts. Like the way the Joker was represented, through the script was like, this was really just like a normal guy. This was really like, it was almost like if this is really like a normal criminal, and the kinds of things we're saying was that this is just like a normal criminal that who you would find out there, who has his own views, his own political views, and his own like warped, distorted visions of what society is, and his whole like thing about anarchy and all that kind of stuff. But I just think that there was a really big difference. You could tell that it was written by someone different from Batman Begins, but just because of the way that it was set up from the very beginning to the very end was that like the interactions between like Gordon and Harvey Dent, the criminals in there, But it's like the only shame I have was that even like with the way Batman was represented is like what I've always found like disappointing in the comics was that Batman just kept on reacting to what the Joker was doing. See, he kept on being submissive. So while the Joker was just crazy and preaching and doing all of this stuff, Batman was just like reacting and saying, "Oh no," like was either like being angry or like beating him up. But I just think that it is key that because at the end of the day, Batman isn't like Superman or Spider-Man. He isn't a hero. He's an anti-hero. And I think that the script was missing out a very important evolution of the Batman character because of the representation of the Joker. Because in Batman Begins, the way Batman was portrayed, that's perfect. I putting fear onto these criminals. But with the Joker, the Joker should unlock another part of Batman's psyche, because this is a guy who is crazy and as mad as you are, but just like he's on the other side of the coin, he's just doing bad things. So really, Batman should really be taking his criminal skills, into different directions with the Joker, because this is a different breed of criminal. So therefore, Batman has to change. And I don't think you really saw the change of character within this, because he has to change, because this guy is not the same as the other guys.
That is where you go into the fact that it's a compromise, because the fact of the matter, which is what I said months ago when we were having the previews, is that for me, if you're going to make a movie about the Joker and Batman, those are the only guys in the film. That's how I view it, because from what we've seen, imagine a movie called The Dark Knight, and those elements which were already in this script that we saw of the Joker trying to show Batman a mirror of himself, the scene in the interrogation room, and all those themes, but that is the theme of the film. That is what this film is actually about, and pushing Batman all the way to the edge between these two characters throughout the entire thing. Now, to be honest, what you would end up with if you did that is a very normal film. But to me, it's like that inevitably becomes more fulfilling as an exercise than doing what you have to do when you make a movie of this scale, is include bells and whistles and have explosions and have all these sorts of things. Now, that being said, like I've already said, it's still a crazily good movie. But what I'm trying to explain now is that, you see, what Nolan has done is that he just opened a little peeking hole of what could be, of the possibilities, or what you could actually have with things like this. The question now is whether people are going to walk down that path, or whether they're going to just take this for the big blockbuster breaking records, which is what it is, or start moving in that direction. Like, you know what, man? You could make a movie that is like Silence of the Lambs out of Batman.